All right. Thank you for waiting, everybody. I'm excited to get started. My name is Darren. I'm from Tenantcube, and I've got with me Andrews Moses, the CEO and founder. I'd like to thank you all for joining us in our webinar today. We're going to be talking about creating a rental application that landlords love. We know it's a competitive market with respect to rentals and many locations, and we think this will be some very valuable information. But before we get started, I'm going to let Andrews quickly introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time. My name is Andrews Moses, as Darren alluded to. I'm the founder and CEO at Tenantcube, and I'm super excited to have you guys on our webinar today. We look forward to showing you what we are working on and how you can stand out while you apply.
Excellent. So I'm going to get started with our agenda just to give you an overview of what we're going to be covering today to help you follow along. We're going to go through the different sections, and then at the end, we're going to open it up to some question and answer. So if at any point you have a question, please just let it loose, and we'll answer those together at the end in a short Q&A session. Now, with respect to the agenda, the first thing we're going to look at is actually just some data points that we have from a survey that we conducted back in August. We took a look at the rental experience for modern renters, and we wanted to better understand what the modern renting experience is like. So that's where we're going to start. And then we're actually going to start moving through the process of applying for a property and renting. So we're going to start off with understanding the requirements of a rental unit. Now, when we're understanding the requirements of the rental unit, we'll want to know what's important to us when we're looking. Now, the third part that we'll be moving into is the rental application process. So where do we look? How do we start applying? And as we continue along in the agenda, you'll see here that we've got some additional sections, which we will move into some different areas where we'll have Andy take us through the application process. And then we'll also have him do a brief demonstration on how we can actually go about creating a application that landlords actually absolutely love. And then, as I alluded to earlier, we'll just kind of briefly follow it off with any sort of Q&A at the end. I'm sure Andy will be happy to answer any of the questions you guys may have. So to begin, I'm going to talk briefly about our rental experience survey. Now, what we wanted to understand was, what's the modern renting experience like? So we asked a number of participants throughout North America who have currently rented or recently rented about some of their experiences. And this took place through many different avenues of the rental experience. But for this specific webinar, we focused on some of the parts regarding applications and actually the process of finding an appropriate rental. So you'll see a couple of different points here that have come from the survey, which we did conduct back in August. So the information is pretty recent. And one thing that we found is that the average renter is spending 20 to 30 minutes on an application. Now, this is best case scenario. This is assuming you have all your information ready. It's assuming that you already have your documents and any sort of pay stubs or anything that may be required. And as you require more information, that time only goes up. So if you don't have everything already in place and nearby, you can easily get up into 40 or 45 minutes just to fill out an application, which can be time consuming. It can be cumbersome, or some of the words that our respondents had used to describe this part of the application. Now, that's just the first area. So when we actually have an application complete, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the application out and approved on the first unit that you apply for. We found that the average applicant was spending 4 to 5 applications to actually get finalized or to get approved or being moved forward through the process into renting a unit. So when you start adding up that time and you start adding up the number of attempts that it may take, it can become very time consuming before you even get approved. So a lot of work involved, a lot of repetitive information, and a lot of filling the same forms out over and over. Now, assuming this has all been completed and when this is all done, the next thing is going to be the response. So there's nothing worse than waiting 2 days, which is the usual time that it takes for a landlord to get back to you, only to have them get back to you with, oh, I require an additional piece of documentation. I require a photo of your driver's license. I need a pay stub. There's all these different pieces of information or documents or photos that they may need. And if you don't have those on the initial application, then you're only prolonging the process. So while you're waiting to hear back if your first choice unit is going to be yours, your second or third choice may be already getting snapped up. So time is of the essence in these competitive markets. It's very important to have things done in a timely process. Now, the last little bit is just the nature of how applications have been done for some time, which is they're typically paper-based or they're usually embedded with very old technology. So they're not very user-friendly, especially given how COVID is rapidly changing the landscape for today's renters. The paper-based system is just no longer efficient, and the technology that people are using traditionally can require you to do things like download PDFs, print them, try and upload them back up, or just use complicated or cumbersome technologies to try and complete the application. And when we, really tried to get the impressions that people got when we factored in all of these data points, is that they, found applying to be very time consuming, very cumbersome, and just caused people a lot of anxiety and stress that didn't need to be there. And those were just some of the first takeaways that we had. And, it was just important information to understand regarding the rental application. And I think we've all been there. So when we, understanding all that about applying, we're going to move into talking about, actual rental process. So when you're renting, the first thing you should do is set the criteria for your home. So we've broken this down into the 4 key areas that are important when looking for a rental opportunity or a housing opportunity, which are budget, location, features, and security. Now, the reason budget is important is because it's going to have the biggest impact on what home you're able to get, what's going to make sense for your living situation. So you're going to want to look at things like the cost of the unit. Are there any extra costs involved? Am I going to have to pay for my utilities? Am I going to have to pay for parking spots? Are there any extra fees associated? And is what I earn going to be enough to cover not only my rental unit, but also any extra expenses that I may have? So budget is a very important factor that you should understand all the numbers involved before you even start applying. Now, the next thing is very important. It's location. So location may be just as important as the actual apartment or home itself. So even though you may love a home or an apartment, if it isn't in the right location, it can really affect your quality of life. If you have to go farther to get your groceries, if you have to commute longer to work, and if you don't have, a playground nearby for your children, there's all these different variables that are going to affect how you enjoy your home simply based on where it's located. So it's very important, whether you're a student and you require bus routes, or there's an elderly family member and you need certain locations to be nearby. You really have to understand where your rental opportunity is positioned and how it's going to affect your day-to-day living. And following that is the features. So every location is going to have its own unique set of features. Some locations may have a pool, some locations may be pet friendly, some locations may have certain smoking policies. All of these things are important to consider. You need to know exactly what's going to be important to you for your lifestyle, and what is going to be acceptable for the landlord. So let's say, for example, they have a pet policy that doesn't allow for dogs, and you've got a big German Shepherd. Why are you going to waste your time applying for a place where you already know that they don't allow pets? So features are very important. And then really just to cap it off, the fourth and also equally important to the other 3 is security. So when you're at home, you want to have that peace of mind. Peace of mind is really important when it comes to our living situation. So you want to make sure that when you've managed to match all these other 3 factors, that the security is in place. So if you're in a building, is it a place where there's a secure front door, front locking area? If you're in a home, is it in a well-lit neighborhood? If you happen to spend time out in the evening, you really want to make sure that you're comfortable and secure in your home environment. And by setting these 4 criteria and really understanding the requirements that you have as a renter, you'll now be ready to start your search. So when we start our search, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of different places where we can go to look on the internet. So the internet is full of different listing sites, and you could spend days just browsing at different opportunities. Now, a lot of these housing opportunities, you'll have the same location posted in multiple areas. So once we understand our criteria, one of the best things you can do is narrow it down after doing a little bit of research on the listing sites, narrow it down to a handful that you want to work within and do your searching in those locations. Based on the criteria you've set from the 4 key factors, you'll then want to move into the search. And from the search, you'll want to look at places like Zillow, Craigslist, Kijiji, or even Facebook Marketplace, which has become increasingly popular for small landlords. So once you've got your location and your other factors narrowed down and you've set your criteria, you'll then move into looking through the opportunities on these listing sites. And this is only getting you started on your journey to find the right opportunity for your housing. So once this is set and you know where you're going to look, the next thing is to start the outreach and start applying. Now, for the applications, I'm actually going to hand that over to Andrews. That's why he's here today. He's actually been on both sides of the fence. So not only has he been a tenant at earlier points in his life, he's also shifted into becoming a landlord. And now as the CEO and founder of Tenantcube, he's really seen things from all the different perspectives. And I think he'll be able to shed some really nice light on what is important in a rental application and how we can stand out to landlord to really get the unit of our dreams. And with that being said, Andrews, I'll hand that off to you.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Hope everyone's having a great time so far with all the information he's provided. One thing I also see that I think a lot of people are not used to Zoom. I see a lot of questions, a couple of them come in. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop in the questions section. So what I'm going to do today is just walk through the rental application, right? So Darren had actually walked through the entire process of a search, right? That itself sounds like, geez, it's a lot of work, right? So you've done all this work, you've found a place that you love. Now, what's the next thing, right? They're going to send you a PDF or they're going to ask you to fill information. And at that time, you're going to be scrambling to find, oh, where's my pay stub? Where's my employment letter? How do I prove to this landlord that I deserve this place, right? So that's what I'm going to walk you through, how you can simplify that process, right? So let me start off with what are the top 3 things a landlord's looking for, right? So what do they want to see in a tenant? So first thing is obviously a good first impression, right? Because always, whether it's renting or business or whatever it is, the first impression makes a big impact. The second thing is there credible information that they're receiving, right? As a landlord, when they receive information, how credible is this, right? And then the next thing is reliability. Reliability of the tenant is simple. It's important simply because it is a big long-term decision from a landlord perspective too, right? From a tenant, it should be a match, right? So there's no good, bad kind of relationship here. It's all about the right fit, right? So is this the home a right fit for you? Is this tenant a right fit for the landlord? That's all we're trying to get at, right? So let me start off with the first good impression, right? So we all, as tenants, when we were tenants or when I was a tenant, we think that the application process really starts when you fill out the paperwork. I'm here to say that that's not true, right? You could word it however you want, but it is not true. The day you go see a property, the first time you talk to a landlord on the phone, there's already a kind of a perception being built around who you are as a tenant. So it is super, super important for you to be mindful of communication, right? So again, for viewings, I've heard from a lot of landlords that if they see people not there on time, it's kind of okay, maybe that's not important for them, right? So simple things like that. So be on time, right? Ask good questions. Like ask questions about the property, ask questions about how to maintain the yard, ask questions about how do you upkeep the home. Simple things like that gives you that extra brownie point when a landlord thinks about it. Actually, they actually thought more about my home. They thought about how they would live here, right? And then the other thing is that be prepared to answer questions, because you like it or not, landlords are always going to ask you questions while you walk through the place or on the phone to understand your perspective and kind of figure out who you are really before you even submit an application. So I would do that upfront, like be ready with answers. Like, I'm not saying just prepare fake information. I'm just saying, be who you are, be prepared, right? So when you even view a home, be prepared. The second thing is being upfront with information saves a lot of hassle. First thing is obviously, even if it's a basic information, let's take pets, for example, like how Darren mentioned, there might be pet policies, but we all love pets, right? Every landlord loves pets, everybody loves pets. But then is it the right match, right? If you have a big dog and they don't want a big dog, then why do you spend time? Be upfront with that information. Again, at the end of the day, it's also a home that you're bringing a pet into. You want a pet. If I bring my dog into a home, I want to make sure that she's happy at that place, right? So when I decide that, I'm going to be upfront and say, you know what, okay, does that work for us? And one thing you want to really focus on is your rental history. If you've been renting, you need to find a way to provide that rental history in a way that it's easily digestible for that landlord. And again, rental history goes a long way, right? So you could have 10,000 different kinds of paper. But once you have a proven rental history, it just kind of sets you apart from the crowd. And then also I would go into kind of the lifestyle and health lifestyle that you currently have, simply because, I mean, you just kind of understand, it's almost like think of it as a cover letter, right? When you're applying for a job, you don't just send a resume, you give them a cover letter to give more character to that particular person who you are or family. Give more character, give as much as information, right? So that's how you build it. And again, whatever I'm saying here, it's not that you have to give this information from a perspective. It's just my view on what you should be doing, right? So next thing, how do you show a landlord a reliable tenant? Like show sources of income, whatever sources you have. I mean, we're all proud of our sources of income, so show that, right? Make sure, be upfront, tell them how you do it. Credit score, if you have a credit score, if you already have a credit report, provide that upfront. So that, again, it helps the landlord process, and it also tells them that you're prepared, right? So you're confident, you're prepared, you have all the right answers. And references are a big deal as well. Like if you have references from a previous landlord, a work employment reference, or even a friend who might know the landlord, right? I mean, it's a small world we live in. So it's always good to have those references and recommendations. That could kind of get you to that stage where it's again, at the end of the day, in a competitive market, sometimes you've heard people receive about 40 to 50 applications for a unit. And how do you stand out when you have 40 to 50 applicants, right? You need to be more, I mean, you need to stand out. So what are some of the ways you do that? And this is one way you could do that as well. So what I'm going to do next is just kind of take a step back and say, you know what, it is definitely how everybody feels at the end of a rental search or during the process. We have all been there. Everyone's been there. Darren's been there. I've been there. I'm sure you guys have been there. So it is definitely daunting, and it's a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, and too many moving parts. You're applying to, even if you apply to 3 houses, you don't know which one you applied to, which document did I send it where. So it's a lot of confusion, chaos when you apply to a home. Now, that's one thing we at Tenantcube, when I started Tenantcube as a landlord, I wanted to think of both sides of the coin when I built a platform, right? So we wanted to build a good platform where tenants and landlords can have a better rental experience without a lot of paperwork. How can we streamline this communication? And that's the path I am. I mean, our team is on a journey right now. I'm going to quickly show you what we can do, right? I'm just going to show you what we have built so far in Tenantcube. It's just the first. I mean, it's not even a public available product yet. We are working on this. So what we are building today is, think of it almost like a renter's resume, right? Think of it as your renter's resume. You do it one time. So when you go in, you come into Tenantcube, you build your profile. So you provide the basic information. And when you provide information, you provide proof to show that this is who you are. Now, if you go into employment, you add a employment, you could provide employment letter and pay stub. So what it's doing is it's giving you a simple way to update as much as information as you want. So this is not mandatory that you have all this information, but we recommend having this information, some information related to your pet, vehicle. I mean, it all talks about a person as who you are, as a person or a family, who you guys are, right? So it kind of gives a good perspective to a landlord. And the best thing about this, or what we're trying to build, is that it's just done one time. So you built your resume once, you've gone through the entire process. Now your rental resume is done. Now you always have a co-applicant, a partner, or spouse, or whoever that is. You want to have a co-applicant. Again, the process is simple. So together, you both can build a renter's resume with all the information that you need, that you think will help you get the home. Right? So it's all done online. You can do it on a mobile phone, and then you could just simply preview this. Right? So here's a simple preview of your co-applicant data. You have your applicant data. You got entire information. Now, let's say you go to a viewing. Like, so let's talk about the same experience we had before, right? You go into a viewing. You've gone through the search that Darren has gone through. You've spent weeks nailing down that home that you love. Now, how do you get it, right? So now you're gonna ask, maybe the landlord says, yeah, go to our site, fill out a PDF, download a PDF, fill it out, attach all the documents you think you needed, and then send it back to me. Well, you have a Tenantcube profile. You could just request the landlord's email and come in here and say, you know what, Darren is my landlord. He's asking me for some information. I'm gonna type his email and then just put the property information in here. I'll just say 65 Trail. And all that I have to do is review it once. And at this point, let's say with your renter's resume, you have two co-applicants. If you're in a student rental situation, or if you want to add additional people to your application, you could just simply invite them by providing an additional email address. So this way, instead of you having to fill all their information, all of you different applicants can fill information. It gets pulled into a single application and then gets submitted to the landlord, right? So that's how easy it is. So this is just the first step in our kind of vision to solve the rental journey issue, right? So today we have a rental application where you could submit the information. And at point, let's say if the landlord has request additional document, he sends you a link, boom, you just go take your phone and then say, you know what, oh, shoot, I don't know why I uploaded my old pay stub. The landlord's asking for a new one. You go snap a picture, update it, right on our app, you update it. Once you've done that, Tenantcube will automatically push that information to all your current applications so that you don't have to do that over and over again. So now you have a single point of truth where your renter's resume is always updated, everything is in here. Now, if they ask additional document, I've showed you how you can submit it right there. Now, as we move forward, as we go on, we will have options to pay rent on our platform. Let's say if your landlord requires you to have renter's insurance, how do you manage that? You could purchase renter's insurance right on the platform. Work orders, you have an issue, you submit ticket, snap a picture, submit a ticket. So our vision is to build a platform from the time you like your property till you leave it. Entire property, the experience will be driven right on our platform. So that's kind of our vision. I mean, it's obviously a bold vision for the future, but definitely doable, workable for a landlord and a tenant. Now, just think of this as a tenant. Now, let's say if a landlord's on our platform, right? So they're using Tenantcube. Any website that you go to, as we go forward, any listing site you are on, now that you already have a renter's profile, you go look at a listing, you could just hit apply. You already have a renter's profile or renter's resume already built with us within Tenantcube. You just sign in. Your profile already pops up and you say, yep, that's my profile. I want to submit it. Boom. In 2 seconds, you've submitted that application. So that's how easy it should be, right? With the kind of technology we are in and with everything that's happening in the world, it should be digitalized to that level. And that's kind of what we think it will be as we kind of progress. And I think tenants deserve more, being a core of the business. I think that's what we should be looking for as a service. And that's pretty much what I had. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you need any help at all at any time, contact us. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today, and I'll just pass it on to Darren. Thanks everybody.
Great. That was very insightful. Thank you, Andrews. I think what we'll do is we'll move it into the Q&A section, unless you have anything else to add before we go into it. I've noticed
absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So I've noticed a couple of questions come through as we've been chatting. So I'm just going to start off with the first one that was asked, and it said, is my application safe? So are these secure? How does that work?
Awesome. So that's a great question. We get asked that all the time, right? So think of it, if you're filling a PDF with all the information and sending it on an email, you have no control over that. You've sent it to somebody, some email, you cannot pull it back. In our side, what we're doing is all the data that we collect are stored on Amazon Web Services. It's tier 1 secured, completely secure data centers. And the other thing that we are also building, as you know, is that we also will provide the tenant the access to or control over the data at any time. As you as a tenant with your renter's resume, at any point you can go in there and delete it right off, like you can clean it up. Or the other feature that we have is, let's say you send it to a landlord and you don't have a great feeling about that. Like once you've sent it, you say, you know what, maybe I should not have sent it. In an email, you can pull it back. With us, you could just say, you know what, remove. That's it. I don't want this landlord to see my information. Now that's out. So that moving forward, that landlord, if he wants to go access your file, they will not be able to access it. So you will have a better control using a platform like this. Mm-hmm. And think of it as a single place, right? So you have one place where you have all the updated documents and it's saved securely for you. So that's kind of the value. And I think security, we take that really seriously. And we make sure that the data is safe and secured and encrypted wherever it's saved. So yeah, it is safe. Safer than your email.
Excellent. Okay. So another one we have here is, I don't have a credit report. Do I need to buy one?
Again, going back to the same question, I mean, again, all that information we are asking, or we kind of provide a system for you to enter it. It's just optional, right? I mean, if you have a credit report, it is definitely good, because when a landlord receives that information, if he's already have every information that he needs in order to make a decision, it makes his life easier. Now think of the situation, right? I have as a landlord, you might have 3 applications sitting there. One has credit report, one looks amazing, and 2 does not have it. Now I got to go out, pull credit report for these people and compare it and all that, right? So now think of the convenience for a landlord when you submit it, that, hey, I'm upfront, I'm being more reliable, I'm being more proactive, here's all my information. Now you make the decision. So again, the turnaround time you talked about being 2 days is only response time, right? So that's the nervous time you're sitting there waiting, versus when you know you've given everything, your first response could be that you're approved, right? So that's the kind of peace of mind that you want to build. So it is good to have it, but it's not necessary. And we are also working with a third party to allow you to buy credit report on our platform. So if you ever want to do that, you can easily purchase that on our platform as well.
All right, great. And I got 2 questions here left, it looks like. So going to go to this one first, which is, does it cost anything to build my application?
No, and it will be $0 for tenants forever. So our focus is to make sure that the way we build our business is that it will be free for tenants, simply because tenants are the core for the business and we need to provide good experience for them. And our business model works alongside with landlords, providing you the functionality. So at any time, I'm assuming that the question was for tenants. So I'm assuming the tenant is the attendee who's asking that. So it is tenant, it is free. And our business model is we will make our money differently, but tenant, it is free.
Great. And so this one wasn't the last question to come in, but I personally wanted to save it for last, because I think this is a topic that you can't avoid in pretty much any conversation today, and it's regarding COVID. So the question is, I plan to move later this year. Any tips for moving during COVID?
Jesus, they're planning to move during COVID, right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, so. Yeah, I mean, social distancing, obviously, like with all the numbers going up and whatnot. But I think one thing with COVID is definitely something that's kind of accelerating this process of digitalization, because the property industry, property management market was 20, 30 years behind. So it is high time that they came up with better technology to fast track their adoption and innovation. So we think it's a perfect time, and COVID has actually accelerated it. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of challenge when you move during COVID with respect to booking elevators or making sure you have the slot, you're not meeting too many people. Like people can't just walk up and hand you keys anymore because it's obviously it needs to be safe and secure. So things are changing, and the world is going to change completely after COVID. And I think this is being more digital and being more prepared and being more, I think, just being more safe and more proactive, and try to do as much as you can digitally, restricting the interaction with people. I think is kind of going to be the future, and it's going to be for a long time. COVID's not going away anytime soon. So I think it's time that we adopt and then kind of change and make sure we adapt to the changing world and kind of use technology to keep ourselves and everyone around us safe.
Awesome. Great. So I think we'll end it there. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know we're closing in on dinner time, and some of you may just be getting off of work. So I think we'll end it there. I think we've answered some great questions. Andrews, you've been very insightful on a lot of the information. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'll let Andrews just finish it off if he's got anything left he'd like to add.
No, absolutely. I think this has been great. This is one of many, like Darren mentioned. We will be doing this, and again, we are on this journey. We want to try to make it better for both sides, landlords and tenants. So if you have any feedback, if you have any questions, I know we couldn't answer all the questions, so we'll try to email them with the answers or whatnot. Or you could always contact us directly. Go to our site, give us a call. We'll be happy to help you. And again, thanks, guys. Appreciate you taking the time of your busy schedule. Thank you.
Great. And for all of you attendees, you can expect a copy of this recording. We'll send it out to all of you. We'll also send you out more information regarding future webinars. I hope to see you all there. And I want to thank you for joining us on our first one this week. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all soon.
All right. Cheers, guys. Have a great day. Bye.